That's really
She's awesome. Yeah, she's awesome. She's speech and doing spoken word stuff.
yeah, I'm like,
She's doing great. I know. Little one. How old's the baby now? I know. I was gonna say, because I thought there was a baby.
and I saw you.
Good to see you as always.
How do you get to the bottom of it?
How many months did you think around now?
It's kind of one of the things that we need to kind of capture.
Are they all doing well?
Love to catch up. I've got some great information for you when we're done.
It's good to see you in person, not just on Facebook. So just the generation ahead of us. Family families out in the country, they have
I'm doing well for my leave.
see you too. Looking for people. Wondered about that
So I thought, yeah, let's have a Friday because that's one thing I'm just excited about. Our church ladies also, we want to go over and prepare the whole church. That's the take of they're going to make a home cooked meal. Non-pork, so you can do pork, but I'll do non-pork food. Not a problem. good. So these are people who have already signed up. So there's the slats that still is. That's the schedule. No, I didn't. So I'm thinking, I really want to get this organized and nailed down so we know we have stories. Somehow I did that.
How are you? Good. Are you part of this? Good luck.
I am.
Okay, I want to make sure again. Yusuf is 2 S's. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Cool. Someone thought that it was only 1 S, so I just. Okay. Sounds good. All right. All right. All right.
See y'all then.
Oh, he's good.
He does. He's
Been around.
Okay.
For the award from the MLB.
Well, very nice to meet you. I'm gonna move my chair over here so I'm not interrupting people with my typing.
Yeah, that would be
Oh no, I didn't. Okay, I.
Not to confuse you with court. Yeah,
Good evening, everybody. Come on in, grab a space, grab a seat. Thank you all for coming out tonight to this beautiful public library in downtown St. Cloud. What a fabulous place. My name is Mike Edgerly. I'm news director at Minnesota Public Radio. Thank you all again for coming tonight. Some of you, maybe even most of you, know that Minnesota Public Radio was born just up the road in Collegeville 49 years ago. 49 years ago. And for almost all of this time, Minnesota Public Radio has been bringing people together, convening conversations, helping communities figure out who they are and where they're going, and that's what we're doing tonight here. And we definitely want you to take part, to bring your voice, make it heard. It's important to note that this is being taped for the radio. So that means please be civil. We know you will be respectful of your neighbors, but also keep in mind that this is for broadcast, and we don't broadcast anything that you wouldn't want to say to your mom or your dad or your brother, right? We have a lot of city and community leaders here tonight. Thank you all for coming. Mayor Kleiss is here. There's a school board meeting tonight, but some school board members have come by for a few minutes before they go off to their meeting. So thank you all for coming here tonight and taking part in this event. I'd like to remind you as well, this is the 21st century, so you know what I'm about to say. Turn off your devices. Please go to silent. And I'd also like to thank Trout Wells for the water. And we have some wonderful snacks here, but thank you in particular to Trout Wells for the many bottles of water. Thank you all. This program will be taped and it will be broadcast next Tuesday. You can hear it on KLSE here in Collegeville, St. Cloud. Hope you'll listen. And KLSC? That's Rochester. Oh, you can listen on Rochester too. After you finish tonight, we'd like you to pick up one of the cards we have at the front desk that it's for our Public Insight Network. It allows you to connect with us, give us ideas for stories, tell us how we're doing, tell us what you think about this particular event. So, once again, a reminder, please be civil, please respect your neighbors, but have a free and open conversation. And I'm done. And now, Tom Weber from Minnesota Public Radio News.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Given the crowd here, I just want to say that if anyone's here for the scarf knitting workshop, that's tomorrow night. I just want to make sure everyone's in the right room. The smartest woman in the room is this woman who brought a lawn chair. So you are a very, you are to be complimented. As we noted, this is for broadcast, so I'm going to start off here with a little intro, and then we'll introduce our guests, and we will have a conversation. And as you know, this is also open to the audience, and so there are two people with microphones. They'll be around later. You see over here on that side, Brita, and then Jonathan down here, stage right, stage left. So that's coming as well. So as you think of your questions, excuse me, we will have a time when you go to them, and we'll have that as well. I'm going to check to make sure we're recording. That's key. Here we go, and thank you all for being here. Welcome to the St. Cloud Public Library for a community conversation about being Muslim in Minnesota. I'm Tom Weber. This is part of a series of reports being produced by MPR News, available at mprnews.org. There will be a point in the future, a little more than 30 years from now, by some estimates, when the entire population of Muslims in this country will reach 2%. That's 2% of the entire population in the United States. And yet this vast minority of our population has come in for extensive critique in recent months. Millions of refugees are fleeing war and terrorism in Syria, a vast majority of them Muslim. Rhetoric on the presidential campaign trail, though, focuses more on the Muslim part. Candidates speak of temporarily banning Muslims from entering the country if elected. They don't have details on how you would know at the border if someone is Muslim. Leaders in the Twin Cities are trying to understand the problem of and stop the recruitment of so far a small handful of Somalis who have joined terrorist groups like ISIS overseas. These and other stories, rhetoric, and debates in recent months made MPR News want to explore the Muslim experience in Minnesota. So why St. Cloud? One reason is its growing Muslim population. In St. Cloud, being Muslim is very closely associated with being Somali. A fair association to be sure, but let's remember not all Muslims in St. Cloud are Somali. Somalis, though, now make up around 20% of students in the St. Cloud public schools, according to the St. Cloud Times. 20%. While the nation as a whole has 30 more years until the entire Muslim population reaches 2%. What a change for St. Cloud. And with it, there's been tension. Worries about a threatened way of life. Worries about racism and children's safety. Worries about what the rest of Minnesota thinks of St. Cloud, given the attention and given a reputation, fair or not, of being an intolerant place. Worries that inaccuracies not rooted in reality are taken as credit, and taken and cited, I should say, as fact. Worries about what I, as a white human, don't know about that human over there with dark skin and a hijab. Worries about what that human over there with dark skin and a hijab doesn't know about this human over here with white skin and an ambitious but inadequate beard. Worries that this grand experiment called America is stumbling in St. Cloud. But there are people here aware of this, talking about it and working on it. We hope to listen to some of that conversation, and that's why St. Cloud. We did not schedule this event to pass judgment on St. Cloud as the best or worst place in Minnesota to do anything or be anyone. We scheduled the event before anyone else in recent history might have done that. We're not going to fix much tonight, and I apologize for that. But we can be not the first, but the next people to, as one person suggested to me, promote understanding, not division. I know that sounds hokey, but I know I'm not the only one here who wants to try. So let's. My guests are all Muslim, here to speak about their experience. Everyone here in the room is invited to the conversation as well. As I noted, we'll have two people with microphones here for your questions and comments. You can also write your question on a piece of paper, so see our two helpers here on the side. If you don't want to speak into the microphone, you can write your question down on a piece of paper. My guests. Hafsa Abdi is a senior at Technical High School in St. Cloud. She was among the students who walked out of Tech last March, saying they were tired of feeling harassed about their race and religion. Hafsa will graduate in May and study nursing this fall at St. Cloud State. Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
Lily Hersey is a community advocate and mother of 4 children, including Hafsa. She has lived in St. Cloud since 2001 and worked as an interpreter. Lil, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Haji Yusuf is a community advocate and founder of Orange Oak Advertising. He works with Unite Cloud, which is a group working to reduce racial and religious tensions in the city. He graduated from St. Cloud State as well, and is the father of 2. Thank you for being here. And Hassan Yusuf recently ran for school board, owns a tax business here, and graduated from St. Cloud State. Also has a master's from MSU Mankato, and helped found a group called Eradicating Achievement Gap and Learning Empowerment. And the father of 4, Hassan, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hafsa, I'd love to start with you. The walkout at Tech was a very high-profile event. The trigger appears to have been a Snapchat photo of a Somali student in a wheelchair and a caption referring to ISIS. But since then, I understand there have been meetings with students of all races and school leaders, so I'd love to know how things are going now.
Well, at the time, the school was going through a rocky phase, but this school year that we're in now, I feel that change was promised at the end of last year, and change is happening. We do have meetings. We have a social climate group where there's different people from different cultures. I'm in the group as well. We meet once a month at least, and we talk about just kind of the representatives of the school and what kind of change we want to see, and what, as a students, do we see around the school.
Yeah.
So.
When this happened last March, I did a couple interviews about it on the radio, and I talked to a student and asked if you feel welcome at Tech High, and the answer wasn't a firm yes. I can't remember if it was a firm no, but it was not as positive. Do you feel welcome?
At the time of the protests last year, not really, but I was a junior, so I wasn't someone who was like coming into the school newly. I've been there for 3 years, so people weren't necessarily like up in your face about not wanting you there, but they weren't also like arms open, come hug me, like that kind of stuff. So it was just somewhere in the middle, and it depends on who you were, because if you're someone that they can tell that you can like stand up for yourself, you're not going to be approached with some racist stuff. But if you're someone who seems as if like maybe you don't know the language or you're not as outspoken, then they were the targets of being bullied.
Yeah. Better now, though.
Better now, yeah. There's not that many people who, it was mostly the upperclassmen that graduated last year.
Haji, I'm trying to get a sense of what effect the national and international conversations that are being had, whatever they are, presidential campaign, whatever it is, what are those conversations? What effect do they have on a Muslim population locally?
It does in so many ways, because the issue, first of all, I would like to say there's so many people in so many different positions and leadership in this town that are making attempts or working on it to get everybody together. That is, I have to give credit where it's due. Do we have issues? Yes. Do we have pockets of resistance in our town? Yes. Mm-hmm. And so it's part of our American history. If you look down, first that people came to this country, the Italians, the Jews, the Irish, the Germans, everybody that came to this country faced some resistance. And it's how we overcame those resistance at those moments. To answer your question, internationally, when a kid experiences racism or prejudice or discrimination, it translates because that gets carried out internationally. And that is used to incite other Muslims against our country in the USA. And also, when it comes to the issue of bullying, every day in the media we say Somali kids have gone to Syria or Somali kids have gone to Al-Shabaab. We never ask why are those kids leaving? They're leaving because they get to experience some sort of bullying in front of their parents, and they might feel helpless. They feel maybe they're not being employed, they're not getting jobs, they're not getting the opportunity, the American dream that they were hoping they will. So, and then that's an easy ground for somebody to come and recruit them and take them somewhere else so they can go and do that. So we have that, and just together with that and our own issues here in our own city, and also in Minneapolis, where we have a significant population of the Somali Americans, those are the questions that we need to deal with, is why are our kids being affected so much that they're going internationally or nationally, and we're getting attention out here in the state of Minnesota and the US.
Well, for all the attention St. Cloud gets, fairly or not, help me understand where there are problems, right? And we're talking about some of the issues that have come up, sure. Is that prevalent? Is that the majority? Is that 10 people? I mean, help me understand how widespread or not, when something goes wrong, the people perpetrating it are.
I would like to talk to the people of St. Cloud today who are here. It's not all St. Cloud. It's not the majority of St. Cloud. It's a few. But the bad weighs the good. So if the majority of people that are here in St. Cloud want to make this city, or they don't have that racism in them, or the ignorance, or the fear, or the bigotry, then they spoil the name of the rest of St. Cloud. So when people talk, people think like people are talking about the whole of St. Cloud. I want to clarify that tonight here. I have so many people that I know, and so many people that know me as Lul. I've been here for 14 years. I've been in this country for 23 years. But I talk about my personal issues, my personal experiences. And I would like to say this to make it clear. It's not the whole of St. Cloud. It's a few. But those few are the ones that are making the headlines and making people talk, because they want the rest of the community to speak up and say, this is not us, this is not St. Cloud, and these people do not represent us.
So Hassan Yusuf, as you think about what you would do then, right? What would be the solution? What would we do then to address that? Is there something you can think of, or you know people have been saying out loud we need that hasn't been happening? Are those conversations happening about what the proper solution or solutions are?
Yes, thank you. There is an issue that we call innocent fear, that people have this innocent fear of the unknown. They see these people coming into their town in large numbers. They see overseas people who are being killed by people who look like the ones who are here. So they are afraid, and they think that somehow these people will blow them away. So this fear, the only way that it can be cured is by knowledge and by having a dialogue and by talking to those people whom you think that they are about to blow you up. So, and that can come about by knowing them. We are neighbors. In our religion, we are taught that you are not a correct Muslim if you are not aware of the affairs of your neighbor. If your neighbor is hungry and your stomach is full, and you are not aware about it, and you're not taking care of them, so you are not a good Muslim. So the only way people can come together and real and tangible, touchable solution can be found is by people going out of their way. I like one thing that the mayor has used several times, that you are the city. And that kind of talk, people think that they are the city, they own the city. Whatever color you are, it doesn't matter. So the best and the first solution is to acknowledge that everybody is here to benefit this city. And then we come together and we talk. And that cannot be done by an organization. It can be done by individual citizenship of St. Cloud.
I'd love to show of hands here. If you're Muslim, how many of you here work or go to school or spend time during most of your days with non-Muslims? Show of hands here. A good smattering throughout the crowd. If you're non-Muslim, how many of you work with or go to school with or spend a lot of your days with Muslims? A lot of hands, a lot of hands here in the crowd. Now, how many of you have had a Muslim or non-Muslim, whichever you are not, over for dinner or out to coffee for a chat? That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, and I'm glad a lot of people raise their hand, Haji, because I'm trying to also help for the audience listening throughout Minnesota to understand where St. Cloud is right now. Horrible headlines, and frankly, horrible things have happened. But today, if you have to give the state of all of this speech, what's the answer?
First of all, I agree that the headline was terribly wrong. That headline did not do us a favor as a community.
You're referring, just to clarify, about
yes,
an article in City Pages.
Yes. It just took away everything that we should have been talking about. Lul's experience, and so many other people experience in our community. Like Lul, I agree with Lul, like what Lul said. It's not the majority of our citizens in St. Cloud that are doing this. They're not the bad people. We have very few, like I said, very well organized, very well funded. And partly those groups are influenced by what's going on nationally in our country here in the US with the presidential election. And also, terrorism issues in the media that is happening every now and then, like in California and many other places. But I also want to share something about this country and what it means to be an American. All of our histories have been written in this country, and it continues to be written. And the history of East Africans and the Somalis and everybody that came here last 10, 15, 20 years is being written right now. This moment is going to be in the history books, that we had this conversation as a community, that we came together to speak about our issue. When everybody that came to this country was welcome one way or another. Some were not welcome. Some came not the right way. We had it worse. African Americans, which we are part of, had it worse than us. Coming to this country and going through slavery. So there is that struggle for this country. We've heard those struggles. And so when we see a headline like that, we all, we get surprised about it. But we also want to take that moment and maybe not blame anybody. Say, is this what's going on? Yeah, then let's start having a conversation about it. Let's start talking about it. Because I'd rather have a city page article that is shocking than something bad happening in our community, and then we start scrambling. What happened? How did it happen? Who got shot? What's going on? I'd rather it be a written piece that we can, at least discuss about it. Granted, for us to stop having such article, can we come together as a community and start having conversations and talk about what really matters? Partly, some of the groups are influenced by poverty. I understand. All of us, everybody is struggling. Just to give you an example, all of you, some of you sitting here, your great-grandfathers came to this country. They worked up in the coal mines. They laid down the rail tracks. They did one of the hardest jobs to build this country, and something to be proud of. And history of the African Americans and their struggle in this country. Everybody did that so that they can provide an opportunity for their children. That is our American history. Immigrants building this country to be what it is. And the Somali history, the African history now, is being laid down. And those Somali parents right now are not here to threaten anybody. They're not here to take anybody's job. They're not here to take away opportunities that are there. They're here just to provide for their kids, so that their kids can be like any of you sitting here, like Tom Weber, who's sitting here today and moderating this, so that they can provide for their generation and for their kids the same opportunity your parents were able to provide. That is what it's all about, nothing else. An opportunity for all of us. Everything else, I feel, is just smoke screen. I feel the real issue we need to talk about is poverty. We need to talk about homelessness. We need to talk about roads. We need to talk about so many things that we can make us better and make this country grow and to be more powerful.
You mentioned, though, St. Cloud Public Library about the Muslim experience in Minnesota. You mentioned, though, that this need for dialogue, right? I know there are a lot of people in this room who've gone to these events. Some for a number of years. So what will move the needle? Like, I don't want to pretend that this is the first time something like this has ever happened. What I want to say is, these things have been happening with these conversations. Has the needle moved?
Before I answer that, is that me? Okay.
Either of you. I'll open it to anyone, Frank.
Just to touch on that, dialogue does not happen in a vacuum. People need opportunities to meet together, and also it cannot happen in a library where people just meet. We need opportunities where, for example, look at St. Cloud Hospital, look at the city government, look at the school districts. We need people who have the knowledge, the capacity knowledge, to be employed at that particular spaces. And then they meet the general population that come there for service. Look at the county, for example, we have only one Somali case worker. If we had 3, 4, 5, 6, they mingle with their friends, their co-workers, and the dialogue is born there. The dialogue continues. There's people coming for service of different colors, different nationality, aside by people who have different colors. And then they bond and they form friendship. But if we say, this place will be employing only white Americans, and the rest are coming for services, there cannot be dialogue, there cannot be cohesion, there cannot be development. We need the governments or the city governments or agencies to open up high-level, mid-level positions for those people who are qualified. For example, last time we had a panel here, 9 or so. All of them had college graduates. Some of them had 2, 3 college graduates. And they operate their own businesses because they cannot find people to employ them. And people are leaving the city, people who have the capacity. So we have a brain drain the migration of people who are qualified to work here. So the only way a dialogue can begin is if I am hungry, and then you have this table, you're eating. After you finish, then you come to talk to me. That's not going to work. Call me onto the table. Let us eat together, discuss the development of St. Cloud. Dialogue starts from there. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I feel like the people who need the conversation the most aren't the ones who are coming to the conversations, because you have people who actually need to listen and be talked about, and about like Muslims and Somali people in St. Cloud, and those aren't the people that you're going to see most at conversations like these.
Why do you want to be a nurse?
I took anatomy class last year, and we learned a lot about the human body and dissected stuff, so that kind of...
I ask it because, to Hassan's point, you know, someday you'll be at the St. Cloud Hospital, right? You'll be, everyone who lives here will be a patient of yours at some point. Not everyone, I hope, but disparage here. But I mean, do you think about that? Do you think about that you as a young Somali in St. Cloud have that role, that if I get a job like that that is community touching, that I play a role in that future?
Yeah, because then I hope by the time that I finish college and get a job that people will be more comfortable with like having nurses that look like me, because there are some instances in like other cities and stuff where having like a Muslim doctor, a Muslim nurse, people don't want it. So I don't think that would be a problem in St. Cloud, but I feel like that would be important, because then it shows community growth. And then you see people, like Somali people, like the assumption of Somali people not doing anything and like having welfare and stuff, and you see people actually going out and having jobs, so.
Let me ask a couple questions that do come up, right, when we have comments flying back and forth in some of these situations. So Lul, I'll ask you this question because it's out there, right? What responsibility do newcomers have to assimilate to a majority white community?
Like I said, I've been here for 23 years. There's two things that I cannot change. The way I dress and my religion. The rest of it, I've tried so much to assimilate, to be an American, to respect my neighbor, to work with the people that I work with, to teach the ones who ask me about my culture and my religion. That much I've done in this city for the past 14 years. I've been trying to educate. Those who know me well will say that. And the other thing I would like to say too, how much more should we assimilate to the American culture that we are not doing right now? Because does it mean that I have to take out my hijab to wear or wear something that I'm not raised to? Does that make me an American? Or are you going to accept me the way I am? This is how much I can take. And this is how much me as a human being can change. But two things that I cannot change, and it's too bad if people want me to say that, oh, to be an American, and people will say like, oh, why do they call their children Muhammad or Abdi or blah, blah, blah. For heaven's sake, we don't say anything about Easter. We don't say anything about Christmas. We don't say anything about all that stuff. We give you what we found you with. So let us have our culture and our religion the way we were taught and the way we want to teach our children. So to be honest with you, I think most of us have assimilated or have tried to get into the community. But when somebody you want to talk to does not even want to smile back at you, how are you going to talk to that person? We feel like we sometimes isolate ourselves from the other larger community because we don't feel welcome. If it's true, if somebody is really true, wants to see me change or wants to know about me, if you stop me at any place, I'll waste my time, even an hour, and talk to you about my history. I'll tell you about my culture. I'll tell you about everything I know. That much is assimilating, educating the other person. But there's many things that we cannot change, and that's too sad. You know, We have our children, they go to, thank God my youngest is 12. I've been writing Valentine cards for the past so many years. Yeah. My oldest is 23, they are all born here. I've been writing those Valentine cards to a point where I'm called by the Somalis, she's an Americanized. See, I don't know which side I belong anymore. Because to my culture, people call, oh, she's an Americanized. Because I send candies and cards. My boys have girls' names that they want to give the cards to the girls, and I had to go through all that for 23 years. And now my youngest, when he left elementary, I was like, thank God. You know? But to the people of St. Cloud, how much does one have to assimilate to this community? What do we do? What do I do as Lul, as a mother of 4 children, who's trying her best to be an example for her children, to teach them the American way of life? She works part-time and she's a high school student. I don't let her stay at home. I make her pay some of the bills at my house. That is the American way of living. That is the American way that I came to find out. I wasn't raised because I was made to do what girls are supposed to do. But I'm giving my children, my daughters and my sons, the opportunity for this, what this country has, the good of this country. But I don't want them to take the other bad of this country, which is, you know what, I don't want to see my son having his pants saggy. I don't want to see that. I don't want my son to be, you know, to be called, your son is somewhere else, or he's in trouble, or he's doing drugs. That's what I don't want. So how much can I assimilate? I don't know how much anymore that I can do for the past 23 years. I'm a human being, and what is written about me, if people could take time and read my experience, you'll see me as Lul Hensel, who lived in this city for 14 years. But when I talk about my personal experience. But at the same time, I'm the voice of the ones who cannot speak for themselves. And that much I have to do.
We have here in the audience, Mayor Dave Kleiss is here, and we're going to bring a microphone over here because I just want to ask you one question, because Hassan had said something just a moment ago about the importance, for example, in city government and agencies and the like, of having that be more diverse. Yeah. To what is that? Do you agree that that's a problem, that needs to be addressed?
Can you just repeat that last piece? Because I was arguing with, to get the mic, and I know you don't want to hand a mic to a politician, so
exactly.
So you can repeat that last.
Yeah, I will. And just so you know, when we do our questions, we will be holding the mics. We need to count them up at the end of the night and make sure we have them all as we start. Mayor, the question had to do with what Hassan just said about one place you can start is those workforces and workplaces, especially in city government, that you have people working there, especially in those public-facing jobs, that are more diverse. Do you agree that that's a really important issue?
I think it's extremely important to have, especially government. Government has an obligation to make sure, and that's one aspect. As mayor, I tell folks often, and I appreciate that, repeating that, because it's not some government out there. And I don't know how many times I've been said, the city should do this, the city should do this. You are the city. So it should reflect the community. One of the opportunities, one of the challenges is being somebody who, during a recession and coming out of a recession and being fiscally responsible, we don't have a lot of open positions because we don't hire a lot of folks. We've actually have almost 50 less people working for the city than we had in 2008. So that's a challenge. But one area where we do have an obligation, and that is, I think, one of the most important aspects are our boards and commissions. And boards and commissions, from the Park and Recreation Board to the Planning Commission to the Zoning Board to the board that oversees this building, the Library Board. Those are positions that are extremely important to have not only the dialogue, but they're leadership positions, and they do reflect. If you look at the makeup of our boards and commissions, you'll see that it reflects the community as a whole. And that is one area where we can make that change, and we have. Another area that we can, again, not turning to government, to dialogue, and dialogue is an important aspect. The first comment made here, I think, was very fitting. Don't say anything that you wouldn't say to your mother. If people live that in all aspects. Something I learned growing up, that's an important aspect. But the dialogue, and having a dialogue like this is great. That is something I talk often, get to know your neighbors, have those conversations. But it has to happen in those neighborhoods, and I couldn't agree more. It has to happen in settings. I was reminded at a recent event at the Paramount where one of the speakers said, the greatest fear in the nation is public speaking, and the second is death. So people are more afraid to speak publicly than they are death. So having a forum like this is great. But most of the people in this room don't want it. Not only do they, it's difficult to have that conversation in this type of forum. It's difficult to have a conversation, add the public speaking piece, and then add religion, politics, and race. But we have to have those conversations. It's a matter of people having those, and whether it's the workplace or in your home or in your neighborhood. And we need to have a dialogue. We have to have discussions with each other, not about each other. That's a challenge, and that's an important aspect to make sure that we have that dialogue. No community is going to do well unless you have that opportunity to know your neighbors. And by the way, this is a vibrant community. I love to have an opportunity to have a commercial here. A vibrant community, a lot of things happening. We have economic opportunity. Jobs are doing well, and wonderful spring will come, and we'll have summertime by Lake George, 15,000 people. We got the Mississippi River. I'm not holding the mic, but I needed to get
the tourism board just
well,
showed up.
oftentimes I have a challenge when especially externally, people talk about the community, about St. Cloud in a negative manner. That's not the community that we have. When I read that article in City Pages, that is not St. Cloud. So it's a matter of making sure. And when I see that St. Cloud, we are all St. Cloud.
But you're not absent incidents.
And no city in America is absent incidents, or this world for that matter.
Let me ask you another question, Mayor, while I have that mic in front of you that you can't hold. What is the responsibility of an elected leader like yourself, specifically to address the misunderstandings that come from incorrect information? There are things that are said, and you know them, that are not true. What is your responsibility to debunk those?
Well, it's the responsibility of everyone to debunk those things that are true. The responsibility of government, and I have a view of, there are aspects of government that, and I have this conversation every day, there are things that the city government does, there's things that the state government and the federal government. Too often those lines are blurred because everybody wants to do share the responsibility of somebody else. City government, our responsibility and utmost is to make sure that we treat everyone in the city with respect, equality, opportunity for all. We have a zero tolerance for discrimination. The city government aspect, it's important to help facilitate that conversation. The city actually, 2 administrations before myself, Mayor Larry Meyer started a group called Create Community. There are a number of folks in this audience that have actually worked bringing people together to have that conversation and that dialogue. And the group is made up by leaders in the community, steering committee made up of folks that when it was created, and it's still part of that aspect, it was created to dismantle systemic racism in the community, but it also has a mission to create a welcoming community with opportunity and respect for all. Centricare, the university, the school district, the faith community, a number of folks are part of that group, the Chamber of Commerce.
But you get asked to talk at events.
I absolutely
and
get
so
asked to talk at that event.
To the extent that a St. Cloud mayor has a bully pulpit, to that extent, is it your job to use any of that time on that pulpit to say, hey, you know what, by the way, I heard something last week, and it's not true, so let's put it out there. Do you feel that's a responsibility?
I believe that's, again, my responsibility and everybody's responsibility in the community. So I take that responsibility, as should everyone when they hear something that's inaccurate or wrong. I have, and I tell people they should do this, I have hundreds of conversations on a daily basis on making sure that whether it's accurate information or talking about the community, but having dialogue with people. I can't stress the importance of having those conversations. That's the important aspect of this. And every place I speak, and I'm going to do it here anyways, but it's a limited number. I invite people to call my office at any time, and if I don't know you, I'll cook you dinner at my home. I would encourage now it's a broader audience now, so there is a limited space, by the way. So I should actually change that and say, if anyone wants to cook me a meal, I'll come to your home. That might be a better way of doing it. But the aspect of conversation and getting to know people is important, and that's everybody's responsibility. Do not rely on government to fix that. I tell folks, you asked the question about my responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility to have those conversations and dialogue. You don't expect some elected official or some politician to just say some magic words that's going to make everything go well. That's not the role and that responsibility.
There's a messaging there, though. You know that, Mayor.
Well, I
think
for the last few minutes I'm just giving that message. I think that's an aspect.
Can I say something?
Absolutely. This is Haji.
Yes. Leadership is an opportunity to lead. I know Mayor Kleiss is doing everything he can to bring this community together. But also at a time like this, when we had leaders speak up, they spoke when it mattered. Because you represent more to the city than, just saying. You have to say it. And I think that's what Tom is trying to get at you. You have to come out and say, this is our city. And everybody has a stake in this city. And that we should care about each other. And that when there is a lie about this community, you as a leader supposed to come and say, that's not true. That is a moment of leadership that we had in this country. I don't want to take away anything you do. You do great. But there's a time you can make a lot of things easier for a lot of people. We look to you for assurance, for leadership. When the Somali community and the African community, when we speak of Mayor Kleiss. And you're doing an excellent job. All we're asking for you to do is to be fair and say, if this is not true, it's not true. And the other thing is, there's excellent organizations in our city. St. Cloud State University, the school district, Santa Clara, and many others. I'm dealing with them every day. I sit with their leadership, and they're trying so hard to make things better for everybody. They're trying to make changes. Yeah, change takes time, understandably, but they're trying so hard to bring changes. President Porter from St. Cloud State, when some guy went on campus and said something and was flying the Southern flag on campus, President Porter spoke up. He said, this is wrong. When that guy was making claims, he said, no, not on my campus. It's the same leadership that we're asking. We're not asking for more. Everybody, white, black, religion, whatever it is, they're looking up to you for your leadership because you represent us like anybody else. We just want your presence.
On that aspect, and I do, in one aspect, as I mentioned before, government has the responsibility to respect everyone's rights. And government has the responsibility to respect the Constitution of the United States, something I take very seriously because I recite the oath of office that I took every day of the week. I read the Constitution on an annual basis. It's an important aspect, and that is respecting everyone's right. One of the biggest aspects of that is the Bill of Rights and every aspect of the Bill of Rights. And I do, this is the challenging aspect. The article that was in City Pages, I spoke to City Pages in October, I think for over an hour. I didn't see one quote in that paper. I can't dictate what is said. I can dictate what I say. I can't dictate what is reported. But I think it's important for everyone to be part of that. And it's extremely important for government to make sure there's a responsibility of government, and I feel very strongly about that, and I very strongly understand the oath that I take, and that's the oath that I will not compromise.
There's so many positive things Lul said on that article, and I said, but it was never put there. So we had no control over what the journalist is going to write and how they're going to frame the story. But we always have to speak on both sides.
Mayor, I also just want to say you were skipping another event tonight to be here, so I do appreciate that, and I thank you. I'm glad that you're here. We are going to open up to questions here as well here in a moment. Again, where did Jonathan? Jonathan is waving right there. If you don't want to speak into the mic, you can write your question as well, and then Brita here has a mic. And then Brita, I'm actually going to ask you to come over here. The police chief of St. Cloud, Blair Anderson, before we go to questions from the audience. And Chief, this speaker here might, I don't know if that's going to do any back feed, but if you mind coming over here.
Not bashful.
We have the police chief of St. Cloud here with us as well, Blair Anderson.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. While I know it's not the objective tonight, what I would like to have seen and see more of is the narrative that talks about all of the things, the myriad of efforts and programs and initiatives that have been done and continue to be strengthened. You see, to me, the objective tonight is not to promote tolerance, because we have that already. It's to strengthen all the things that we have done already and that we continue to do. And I work very closely with Mayor Kleiss and the council and lots of you out here, so I know what goes on. And as a black man born in America, I know a little something about racism. And here's what I know in my almost 50 years. That problem we're not going to solve, because some people just weren't raised very well. And so, more importantly, you know, for everybody, but particularly for the panelists, I learned a great many things from my parents, and one of the most important ones was this: doesn't matter what you're called, it only matters what you answer to.
We are opening it up again, so raise your hand. I think what we're going to have to do here, just for a technical point here, is that if you're able to go to the aisles, if you're able to scoot out, because it's a little tight, please do that, and then just go to Brita or go to Jonathan, and kind of get going there. So, excuse me, if you don't mind walking over to the two people with the microphone. I mean, we can. There's a little back and forth there, but that way we can just not be tripping over each other. So I think that's just a logistics thing there, if you don't mind. And we do have a question here. Do you introduce yourself and don't hold the mic? Yeah, we're going on the mic. But go ahead and introduce yourself and your question or comment.
My name is Kevin Lanave, and I'm a longtime resident of St. Cloud. My family moved here when I was 1.5 years, so it's been about 56 years. One of the things that was alluded to early on and that I'd like addressed further is the issue of poverty. My understanding is that the rate of poverty in St. Cloud is somewhere in the neighborhood of between 20 and 25%. And that's significantly higher than the country as a whole. And it seems to me that one of the things that's happening in our community is that there's tension between those struggling to make it, to get enough just to get their families fed, while those of us who are middle class, quite honestly, benefit from the downward pressure that puts on wages and other sort of costs in the community. I think we live in a community that could meet the needs of all of its members. But those of us who are middle and upper class are going to need to share more. And those who are currently in poverty are going to need to get more for their labor. And I'm wondering if you can address that.
Anyone cool?
Let me say this. The Somali community in this city is not asking for handouts. They are so busy looking for work. They are so busy trying to raise their families. So if one is limited to the English language, it takes them time to get hired. Those who have graduated are struggling to get jobs. We have people here who can give jobs to people like the people who are struggling. The one thing that I hear every time is like, and I say as when I speak English and things like that happen to me, I wonder what happens to the one who does not even understand what the person was saying to him or her. I don't know what that person goes through. So for the voice of reason, I'll say this. The Somali community in St. Cloud is a very, very hard-working community. We are here to make a change. We don't want to change your culture, we don't want to change your religion, but we are here to build this city with you, to make this a better place for our children. We came from places that the reason we came here is not to change the constitution. That has to be clear for St. Cloud people, because they have this fear that we are bringing Sharia law to St. Cloud. We cannot bring Sharia law to St. Cloud. St. Cloud or America has its constitutional law already set, which we abide by. We follow that. We are afraid of the law. So for somebody to tell, if somebody sees you somewhere and thinks like you're here for welfare or you're here for public assistance, that's an assumption. At the same time, the 20%, Kevin, you're talking about, are those ones that are struggling to make an ends meal for their family. So if organizations will try their best, I know that Central Care is doing their best right now. They are hiring even housekeeping positions for Somalis.
This is a conversation we're having in St. Cloud on MPR News here today, talking about the Muslim experience in Minnesota. I'm Tom Weber with a panel of guests and a full crowd here, full house here at the public library. We're taking questions here as well. Let me just throw one more thing to what you just said a little bit. I'll throw it to you, Hassan. Isn't the tension that was just brought up in that question related to, it's not just Somalis who are looking for jobs. There are white people who don't have jobs either, and isn't that the tension? Isn't that the rumor mill? Isn't that the conversation about who's getting those jobs and our jobs being stolen, if you want to use that word?
Yes, it's true that that tension arises from the reality that some people think that we are taking their jobs, but that's not true. Everybody is here to look for an opportunity, and that opportunity needs to be distributed fairly and equally across the board. And going back to what the brother said there, 25% is too high, and it's higher than anywhere in the country. And the Somalis, or the struggling people, we are in the same group of struggling people. We are all oppressed by the haves. So we need to come together and pressure those people who are holding the jobs to give us the jobs. So going back to what the mayor was saying about jobs, that we don't have jobs in the city and we don't have other jobs, we cannot hire anymore. So what happens then? Do we leave the city? There are other places that could hire us. All the Somalis, most of them, go outside of the city for jobs. They go to Golden Plum, they go to Melrose, and then those who have education leave the city. We need to somehow come together and make sure that we reduce poverty by hiring people who can access or go up the ladder to middle class. So poverty has to be reduced in order for us to catch up and in order for us to reduce the tension.
I want to get to a lot more questions here as well, and I would just make one small request that you keep your questions brief, just so that we can get to more people, but definitely we want to hear from you. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Abdiaziz, or other people call me Abdiaziz, but the way it's written is very funny, but I can go with that now. My question is, Haji, you mentioned a good point, and the question I want to ask you is that you mentioned about youth are going to join to either going to Middle East or join to ISIS or Al-Shabaab and things like that, terror groups in overseas. Do you feel that those youth who are living here in St. Cloud or Minneapolis are leaving because they are getting rejection? They are rejected from the society here in Minnesota.
That's a very good question. Just briefly, I just want to add one about the poverty before I answer Daziz's question. With the poverty, are you guys aware about 3-4 weeks ago, City Council is allowing foreigners to come from Ukraine and the Philippines and many countries to come and get jobs in St. Cloud? Are you guys aware of that? We're talking about poverty and we're talking about opportunities, and we have our City Council voting in favor of giving a place so we can have Golden Plum can bring 32 foreign workers from 26 from Philippines, from Ukraine, from many other places to come here and look to do the jobs that our community needs. And nobody was at the city council to bring that attention to everybody. And those poverties and those opportunities are the ones that we are looking, each one of us is looking for. To reduce poverty, to reduce all these issues, why do we have people coming from Golden Plum having to go to other countries to look to source for people to employ so they can come and work in St. Cloud? We have American citizens that need those jobs. Those jobs are not being advertised as they should be. To answer your question about, I did not say we have our kids who are going there, but what is being written and is being said in the media is our kids are going there.
From the Twin Cities.
From Twin Cities, yes,
right.
not St. Cloud, from the Twin Cities.
And it's a small hand.
Yes, and ISIS is not recruiting only Somalis. By the way, ISIS recruits extensively even in France, white, black, everybody. So it's not only a Somali question. Somalis are victims of terrorism. Muslims are victims of terrorism. More Muslims die of terrorism than it's happening anywhere else in the world.
That's right.
And in Somalia, in Iraq, in Syria, people are victims of terrorism. So we are not, like you said, we are not here to disturb the peace, as you would say, a Jedi will of Vader. Anyway, to your point, part of the poverty. It's what influences some of our kids that have gone. What is the problem? That is a question we as Minnesotans, we as Americans need to ask ourselves. Why? How do we go about dealing with making sure that our kids don't go there? It starts with schools, like high school. When you bully a kid and you start calling them ISIS at that young age, something gotta give. Something is gonna happen, And when you say African Americans or Somali kids are bad, and every day, when you look at the media and it's not fairly reported, young white male that go to schools are the ones that shoot up schools. You tell me one Somali kid that has gone to a high school and shoot up the place. None. It's not reflected in reality. So what are some of the problems that we're having? And that's the brutal honest. And those are facts. I'm not making this up. But at the end of the day, we need to find jobs. Find a way so we can stop discrimination and harassment in all parts of our life. Let's play a positive role in all our kids' life. Let's start at home. That's where it matters most. To welcome. Somalis are not going anywhere. This is their home. This is my home. I'm not going anywhere.
Say your name and ask your question.
My name is Abdurizak Jama. I am a student at St. John's University. By the way, shout out to MPR. We have history there.
It's our birthplace, for sure.
Yeah. Wonderful. First of all, somebody asked me yesterday, and he said, go back to your people and lead them and make them stop causing violence. And I wanted to answer to that person and to the rest of the community that have a similar question. You are my people. You are the people whom I share the same values of love, sympathy, and empathy, and all that. My question is to Hassan, and I'm asking, I work at St. Cloud Hospital, I work at Walgreens Pharmacy, and sometimes a sad thing that we face, people like me who are raising in the professional realm, is people ask and question our credibility. And when we are being interviewed, we went through the qualification process just like any other person who is working with us. We are subjected to people who question our credibility at our workplace.
Right.
And sometimes some people are very explicit about their feeling. And I had a patient that I was caring for, and then I was cleaning his wounds, and he called me ISIS. So my question to Hassan is, people like us, you talked about people who are learning here in St. Cloud are living this community, and how can we solve that problem? And what can our employers who are here today, how can they help us? And what are your message to the community, the greater community in St. Cloud? Thank you all.
those are the things that I'm talking about. When a person comes for service at a place, and sometimes they're ignorant about your culture, or they're ignorant about your beliefs, they may say some things out of ignorance. So we can usually forgive and try to educate, especially if you have time to talk to them. But as many people come into the profession, for example, at the hospital, if we see Somali doctors, Somali nurses, Hafsa in the future, we see Somali people who are caring for the patient, then the trust starts to build up. The talk and the dialogue continues to build up. But when there is only one person working there, and then they don't get the opportunity to see many people. For example, you go to the city for service, and you don't know the language, and you are stuck there. And then you talk to the front desk, and then somehow you raise your hand, they call you violent. They say, oh, this is rude guy. You don't know, because that is frustration, and also many cultures, we raise hands when we talk. So how can we reduce that? You hire a person there. You make sure that there is a person that you can talk to and teach you about this culture. But there is also the county where we go for service. White people go for service, Somalis go for service, black people go for service. Then there is only one face. They don't know, sometimes they judge you wrongly without any even bad intention. That they say some things. Many of you were here today. I cannot serve you because the other one was yelling at me. What do I have to do with the other one? For example, the last time we were asked about condemning ISIS. Why don't you condemn ISIS? We are both.
You're saying
here.
You were asked why don't. This is what you're talking about, right? There was
Yes.
a meeting, and someone stood up and says, "Why don't you condemn ISIS?"
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Why don't I condemn ISIS? So we are all here. We're a victim of ISIS. We're a victim of terrorism. All of us are victims of terrorism. In Kenya, people die of more terrorism kill people than malaria. And then a guy from Kenya is told, why don't you condemn ISIS? So the only way is that we the opportunities need to be expanded. Achievement gap, for example, our students are not performing well. There are only few of them are in AP classes, if any. And there's development, yes, this school, I met with the assistant superintendent today, and there are many programs, great programs that they are introducing to reduce that. But it is not there yet. So the only way is that we find ourselves at the high level, mid-level, everybody we are not asking to be given an opportunity just to be there. Let us go through the competitive process, and then the process should be fair. And then if we qualify, let us have the opportunity. Then we reduce this issue of discrimination. Thank you.
Lowell, you want to add to that?
I want to add this to, you can be my son, basically.
You have two sons?
No, he can be my son.
Oh,
He's very young. He's a very young man. Anyway, I have two sons here. To be honest with you, there are some people we're not going to change their minds, and we're not going to change the way they think. But what we are trying to do is to have the other side of the community that wants to change this community. If you talk to somebody who has the mentality that you are an ISIS, it's already there in their brain. You cannot change them. Whatever you do, we need to change the other ones, and then we need other people to come with us. Like Hassan said, we were always told, I swear if I don't have a heart attack the next time there's an ISIS thing done, I'm not gonna die sooner. Because whenever something happens that ISIS or Al-Shabaab or anything that happens, I feel if I leave my house, I'm gonna meet somebody who is angry at me because of the way I am, because of the religion, and because I'm associated with ISIS. So we need to have people come out and talk and say, you know what, as a city of St. Cloud, we condemn ISIS as a city, not only the Muslims to condemn ISIS. We are the victims of ISIS ourselves. They are ruining our images, they are ruining our good name, they are ruining the good name of my religion, If I put the Bible today and the Quran, and let's go to the Bible that I mean the Old Testament of the Bible. I've read that when I was in school in Kenya. And believe me, I used to get 97%, and it wasn't my religion, okay? It wasn't my religion. And I took IRC classes because that wasn't my religion, but I needed to compete with the other student to get those high marks. So if we take the Old Testament of the Bible and the Quran, believe me, there are so many similarities. There are so many similarities. But when you label me as a Muslim and think like, yeah, she's a Muslim, she must have the ideology of ISIS. I hate ISIS more than any other American. You know, I hate them because if they do something today, it affects my life, it affects my children's life, it affects my community's life. It affects the way we live in St. Cloud. We don't feel safe then to go outside. We feel like something might happen. So, as a community, why don't we all condemn ISIS? Why don't we all? Not only me, but all of us.
Another question here in the audience? Introduce yourself first.
Yes, Mafi Entai, Maga Ayagua, Bruce Mose. Good evening. My name is Bruce Mose. I'm a member of the Board of Education, District 742. I'm looking at the clock. In about 20 minutes,
you're late.
I'll be in City Hall and I'll be sitting behind a microphone and I'll be doing hard work with 600 members of this Board of Education, and we will be working on a mission and a set of core values that was written by this community. And we will work hard for the children that this mission statement speaks towards, to engage and empower and inspire all children in our school district. I want to direct my remarks to my good friends on the stage, some of whom in this audience and on the stage have been at my home and eaten with me many times at my table. And this is what I've said to you and everybody, and I wish that you would react to it, please. And that is this truth to this community. These are all our children.
Yes.
These are all our children.
Correct.
And we will profit by our children, or we will pay for our children, depending upon what becomes of our children. And what becomes of our children depends upon the investment that we make in our children. All of our children. Now, we will work hard tonight, and we will work hard every time we meet as a school board to carry out that mission based upon those core values. We cannot do it alone. And I see a gentleman in this audience, and I serve on a board of Partners for Student Success in the community. This community will help us bring success and achievement for all of our students. Lul, Hassan, would you please, Haji, would you please either affirm what I'm saying that we do, or would you call into dispute, please, in front of me,
well,
whatever it is.
Do any of you disagree with what Bruce just said?
No, I
okay. I just want to get another comment and a question here, and then we can continue off what Bruce said and more of that. So go ahead and introduce yourself and your question here.
Hello, my name is Rosamond, and I work for Centric Health, and I'm also the chair for Create Community. So I have a comment, and I think that is a very important comment, so I hope everybody is listening. Okay, so because I work for Create Community, when there are issues in the community, it gets to us, and one of the goals of Create Community is to respond to issues in the community as they occur. So Haji made a comment, and I want to speak to that because I think as community members we have to be accountable and responsible. So I got a call and an email about the city council voting to allow people from Ukraine, and so I called the mayor and I said, "Mr. Mayor, is that true?" And he went on to explain it, and that wasn't the case. So the point I'm trying to make is that we don't want to live in sensationalism. We all have a responsibility when we hear something to look out for the facts and represent the facts. Because that is exactly what the NAACP did. They contacted Golden Plum, and Golden Plum explained to them what was going on. So I want to plead with you. We have to be a responsible community, and we don't have to spread lives that are malicious. It doesn't help our community. Thank you.
Questions welcome too, but I absolutely appreciate the comment. But go ahead and introduce yourself.
Eddie Tripp, St. Cloud, 26 years here. I come from a multiracial